JS Racing. We're in the game.
Gentlemen, start your engine!
And we're back. It's 2025, and it's time for some VRX World Cup action. No better place than the Irish Hills of Michigan to start the season off. Live here tonight on B-Speed, It's the VRX Simulators World Cup 2025 edition. Presented here live in part by Moza Racing. Butt kicker. Climax and superior performance. Welcome in, everybody. I'm your host, Bradley Cooper, alongside Connor Horn. Camera packs provided by Dougie Beard. Connor, this track is wide. It's fast. We've seen it before on V-Speed, but we're starting the season off. This is unusual. It usually goes to Daytona. We're going to be a little bit more technical at the beginning of our season.
A little more technical and more surprised that it's not a Saturday and I'm here, but excited to be here for this season on Thursday nights. And it should be an interesting one. It's not going to be like Daytona by any means at this racetrack. Roughly 2 miles around this racetrack. It should be pretty fun for these drivers to get around. Michigan's a pretty fun track, and then the ARCA cars don't know what to expect. I've seen this racing before at this racetrack, this 2-mile racetrack in the ARCA cars. Dirty air matters, but also the draft is going to be very strong tonight, and you're going to be using all the 18 degrees of banking. You're going to see drivers pretty high up on the racetrack, more than we're accustomed to seeing in real life at Michigan, but we'll see a lot of the grooves used tonight.
Absolutely will, and that's just one of those tracks that multi-groove racing is easy to get through with, but there's going to be one line around the racetrack that's going to be the fastest overall, and that's where we'll see the experimentation as we progress through the race. It's a short stint, it's a short race, but there's still going to be a little bit of that groove wear in, where drivers will start to find maybe the bottom, maybe the top. It could be a late apex, it could be the difference of wall riding. We don't know it yet, but the temperature here tonight, well over 100 degrees. It's going to be a lot more slick than what we're used to at Michigan. Hopefully these drivers can handle it here tonight. So we're going to take a look at the roster real quick. Sorry about that, Connor, but we do have to take a chance here to look at the VRX World Cup 2025 roster before we go through the grid. And there's drivers that you're all familiar with in the invitation only series here. So 30 drivers. This is technically the point standings that we're sliding through here, but we also have race control with Connor Gordon, Tony Richards, and some other people up there in the booth watching. It'll be admin only cautions here tonight as we get set to go racing. But let's go with the race length and the race analysis. 60 laps here today, Connor, with 55 miles per hour on the pit road speed limit. Unlimited tire sets available with 2 green-white checkered attempts, 1 fast repair, 65% fuel, and the iRacing fixed setup. So, Connor, I think this should be a pretty short race. We should get through it pretty quickly. But for anybody that gets damage early in this thing, when do you use that fast repair?
You probably want to use it before somewhere around halfway. If you get a break, then if you get damage in the first 10 laps or so, you don't get a yellow, you're gonna have to wait and wait. Hopefully you get a yellow. You're not gonna be able to repair it under green if it's multiple seconds of repairs. If you get damage and a caution comes out early on, you might save that fast repair in case you get involved in something later in the race. So it's kind of a very risky decision if you don't repair that damage. If you don't use that fast repair to repair some damage, think you're going to get a yellow to use it again, and then you don't get that yellow, then you're in a bad spot. So there's a little strategy to that, as well as no strategy partially with the unlimited tire sets. You don't have to deal with it. Do I need to save a set? Should I use a set right here? It's how we used to do it in iRacing before we had that, which I'm accustomed to. A lot of people in the field will be accustomed to. You don't have to save a set. Just use them because you got all of them.
Grid up on your screen. It's Dan Charles with a 38.710 to put it on the pole here tonight. Darren Epker will start in the second position. Row number 2 with Ed Fiedler. Then you have Wade Palmer back in 4th position. 5th spot, Mike Howerton. Mike Shivers in 6th position. 7th spot, Jeffrey Hunter. Dylan Helfler in 8th spot. And rounding out your top 10, Christian Key, Benjamin Richards in the 56.
Just outside of the top 10, Ford Mustang of Jason Lyon in 11th. Brian Hennings, one of those Chevy SS's, in 12th. John Kokenberg, 13th position. Goodwrench, number 98. Greg Spiker, the 14th position. For that driver, Chase Rockford, the 71 car, another Chevy 15th. John Hudson, another good wrench car, the 3 car, so he owns that number. 16th position, Jerry Connolly, 17th, a very bright Toyota. David Collins, a 707, 18th. Anthony Edrington, 19th, and Philip Willis rounding out the top 20.
21st position, Renee Hasp, actually. Teresa Spiker starting in 22nd. And we go back to 23rd with Frank Chavez and Tony Jackson. 25th, Connor Gordon. Tony Richards actually in race control. You have Kenneth Blackburn in the 155. We'll leave those drivers all up in the tower here tonight. But here we go for another edition of the VRX World Cup 2025, race number 1. Michigan International. Set live to go racing with VRX in the Cup. Leading lap number 1, it is going to be Dan Charles from the poles. Jared Epker in second position. Top 2 positions haven't changed hands at all just yet. The 11 car has the 43 of Wade Palmer to the inside coming out of turn 2.
Your C drivers trying to use that bottom line, trying to avoid that dirty air. ARCA cars, it's kind of a combination. The draft very strong. If you're in the draft, for example, Epker in second, he's going to be gaining 3, 4, maybe even 5 miles an hour through the draft, just being behind Charles, the race leader. But the deterrent of that is if you stay behind him entering the corner, the dirty air has a big effect on these ARCA cars. Big spoiler, a lot of aero issues with these cars. So that draft, as you can see Mike Howardson trying to get them a second position, that draft is strong, but if you run in that same line as the driver ahead of you, you can't get the car turned as much. You might even get a little bit sideways in that air, so drivers have to be aware of that tonight.
Riding on board with Wade Palmer, he's actually lost a little bit of ground to the 11, trying to run that inside line. Outside seems to be working a little bit better here out of the exit. 51 of Howardson now going to gain to the 3rd position. 43 continuing to lose spots. He finally moves up the racetrack, and that's kind of the freight train that you get stuck down there trying to make a pass, and then you end up losing 2-3 spots. Finally, he's able to stop the hemorrhage.
Yeah, we said we weren't at Daytona. It's exactly the same, right? No,
Yeah.
not quite, but we're kind of seeing how, because even in these ARCA cars, side draft is so important, so it's not really surprising to see the lines we're using. Pretty much everyone top 8 running the outside part of the racetrack, trying to keep their...
Sideways on the back stretch.
Whoa!
Car all the way to the inside. Caution's out.
David Collins, Frank Chavez, Tony Jackson are crashed. That was a big one down the back stretch.
23 involved in that.
98 just about went over.
This car's kind of got stuck together there, Connor. That was kind of a strange incident.
Yeah, could not see. Someone got turned. I was seeing they were trying 4 wide back there when I was looking at drivers running the outside, and we'll see if this goes wrong. Yeah, they tried pretty early for 4 wide and just ran out of room. Right there, contact.
33. 22. There's several cars involved here.
Philip Willis was the first one to go around. That's where it starts. I don't think he means to put it 4 wide. That's what happens, and looks like he might have come up in front of Greg Spiker when there was really nowhere for the 10 to go. 98 pulled a Clint Boyer at Dover, almost went up on his side, and then 707, a few others just caught up in the aftermath. Right there, a car comes up and just runs those 2 on the top side out of room. There was the 98. He just got clipped. 98 just clipped David Collins, and Collins was almost through it.
That's the other factor here is we have crashes that are big, but coming out of the exit of turn 2, 4 wide like that, probably the most dangerous part of the racetrack to try to exit. Car wants to push up and you get a little bit loose. I don't know with this ARCA car if that's the case, but I know with a lot of the other cars on the iRacing simulation, turn 2 exit can get a little squirrely, especially if you're on the inside of somebody.
It's a track that has a lot of room, but if you're going 4 wide, you're going to run out of room pretty quickly, and that was a case of that right there. We saw the car that was, I guess, middle inside just come up, run the top 2 cars out of room, and that's going to happen every single time when you go 4 wide. It is tough to make that work. That's why whenever you see it in NASCAR's top 3 divisions, it usually doesn't work, and I don't think I've ever seen it work in ARCA in the real world. So it's something these drivers got to be aware of. But everyone's trying to get their a different piece of real estate on the racetrack. How bad dirty air is, and how tough it looked to pass on the bottom. I mean, we saw everyone who was running the top side able to keep their track position. So drivers trying to find a way to get around others, get that clean air on the bottom, trying to find that grip. And not too surprised to see that happen early.
Drivers staying out with Jason Lyon in the number 12. He'll take over the lead, started in 11th, now gains 10 spots. Renee Haspin, the 38, just behind the number 12, staying out. Gains 19 positions. Tony Jackson going to gain 21. So some drivers that started outside of the top 10 making a strategy call here on lap 6.
Also saw, I think Jared Epker took fuel only. I think Mike Chivers might have also taken fuel only, so there was a little strategy as far as that goes. Chase Rockford also might have been another one to take fuel only. So, you know, remember, we got those small fuel cells tonight, 65%. They're not going to last very long, so we did have a lot of drivers come down there just not to take a set of tires, but just trying to get the max amount of fuel possible and keep some track position. But did have these 4 that stayed out and just trying to play the track position game.
Remember, we have admin-only cautions here tonight, so it's going to take something pretty dramatic for the yellow flag to fly. But at the same time, with iRacing's recent updates, Connor, I don't know if you've experienced this, but it seems that as of late, caution flags not flying as frequently as they used to. A lot of single-car spins, you know, maybe on the backstretch, well within the racing groove, and the yellow just doesn't fly. I've seen it a lot at Las Vegas. I'm not sure if it's Michigan that's particularly the culprit, but it seems like with the rescan tracks, that's been the case.
I'm at those art refreshes that made it hard. It makes adminning a lot harder because you have to do the yellows most times, and you might see a big crash on the racing surface. The iRacing yellow is triggering, so you got to rush and right-click, hit the button to throw the yellow, and hope you don't black flag someone on accident. So that's something all the admins up in the tower are going to have to pay attention to, and it's kind of the risk you take. I mean, if you see a car going sideways, you think it's going to cause a big crash, you throw that yellow, then no one else gets involved. It doesn't look good, but a lot of the times if that yellow doesn't come out, you're going to see drivers pile in late. So it's a hard part of trying to admin a race session. I've been on that side of it. I am on that side of it. It's not very fun, but someone's got to do it, especially when these refreshers aren't bringing out the yellows like they need to. But this should be an interesting restart. You got third place Tony Jackson's got some damage.
Getting ready to go back green with Jason Lyon here on lap number 8. Green flags back underway at Michigan. And a step out and a step down. A lot of lane change in here before the stripe.
A lot of checking up on the bottom lane. Tony Jackson did not really go. Renee Hasp kind of changed lanes. Not sure if that's a rule or not, but definitely changed lanes for start finish lines. You're already seeing 3-4 wide drivers all over the racetrack as Jason Lyon keeps the lead at it too.
And a little bit of contact there with Tony Jackson on the back bumper. I believe that was the 5 of Mike Chivers pushing down. The 47 is going to get out of the way. Jackson going to lose about 10 spots within a corner, all the way back to 14.
That looked by design. Didn't really fire it into turn 3 like you'd expect. Just getting out of the way while trying to maybe lead a lap there. There's blocking on the front stretch. Saw it looked like, I think Jeffrey Hunter came up right in front of Doug Helfer, almost put him in the walls. We're 3x3, 2 or 3 lanes deep. There's contact, middle driver, the 11, Epker, got into the side of one of those cars.
Holding it together, but some contact with the wall and a lot of contact there for second.
There they go.
There's the 43.
Ooh, they're somehow all straight. Yellow's going to come out. I don't know how that wasn't a bigger crash, but big damage to Wade Palmer.
Front end missing off of the 43 machine. He's probably going to bring it straight down to pit. No, he will not.
Just going to try to stay out there and pit when it opens. I'm shocked that didn't take out more cars and had more cars spinning. That starts with a stack up on the top side, maybe with the 22, and it just got to the 43. You see these guys all over the place down the backstretch. There's contact there for third, and then the 43 gets caught up in it. Whacks, I think, Jeffrey Hunter pretty hard in the left side. Somehow kept it straight.
Jeffrey Hunter loses the left front suspension here going down the backstretch. Watch this contact right here.
Yeah,
64.
Contact there. I think it was actually maybe the second bit of contact with the 43 that actually knocked the left front off. He hits the wall hard with the right side as well. Get a decent view of what the stack up might have been. I believe this is Doug Helfer's on board. You see Weavin, car in the wall. 22. Someone checked up in front of him and caused a huge stack up.
And like you said, that could have been a lot worse. It seemed like they were going to destroy at least 10 cars, and they all kept it straight.
Came pretty darn close to destroying 10 cars. This will probably take a few more faster pairs out of the equation for a number of drivers. Jeffrey Hunter's definitely going to have to take his, as is Wade Ballmer with those broken suspensions. Mike Howerton, he also has a broken suspension in that, the 51, so that's at least 3 faster pairs, you would think, if as long as they still have them. Those are 3 we'll have to see right here.
So involved in that incident with the 15, the 43, 15 sliding through the stall, no surprise. Lots of damage on the front end of that machine. And Fiedler going to come down pit road and top off of fuel, but it's Jason Lyon who still has the lead. Mike Shivers and the 5, Renee Haas, Chase Rockford, Dan Charles. The top 5 on this one. Pole sitter trying to get back to the front after 11 laps on the stint. Hasn't went the way that you would predict for some of these guys that maybe started towards the front with the cycles of green flag pit stops. Wins the right time, 65% fuel on limited tires. I'd come down every single time.
With that little amount of fuel, I almost come down every single time. Not quite sure how long it's gonna last. Not really sure what an ARCA tank will last here. My best guess would probably be around 35 laps with how much on throttle time there is. So these guys, I would assume they can't get the 30 laps on a tank. So maybe we can get to a 1-stop if they can make it 25 from here, but most drivers didn't come down to top off this time by, so could be close to seeing 2 stops. And if there are 2 stops, you're not doing that many laps on tires. We could see some 2-tire stops if we do get some green flag running. So this very small fuel cell really changes strategy for a lot of these drivers.
It also changes your mentality about strategy, and I think with the unlimited tire sets that helps tremendously. Again, 65% fuel in an already smaller fuel tank. I'm coming down every single time, no matter what. I want to have that advantage in case we go green. You know, not a lot of laps in this race. We're already approaching 40 to go. If we go green from here on out, that could be the deciding factor.
Those drivers who were pitting under this yellow could end up working out for them. We'll just have to see if we get to a point where we can see how big these fuel cells are. But every pit stop, every yellow is going to matter. And especially with the unlimited tires, it's not a situation where you're going to stay out because you can't afford to take that set of tires. You're going to try to take a set, especially if you're a driver outside the top 15. Really, those are the guys that you're going to be coming down and bidding for tires and fuel every single time if you can't get track position naturally on track, whether it's because you're lacking speed or because you're just getting too many yellows to move up. But those guys back there, 15th on back, and even a little further up, you'll see those guys come in every single time.
Jason Lyon, Mike Shivers still on the front row. Pimax number 12 getting ready to go back green with your pole sitter. Dan Charles on the outside, or inside rather, of the GoPro 96. Let's try it again. Third start of the night. 12 car into turn 1.
Like Hasp almost missed a shift. You got these H pattern shifters to deal with, not sequential like the Cup Series cars. Almost said next gen, not next gen anymore, but you can see it's getting through 1 and 2 still a chore for a lot of these drivers. Mike Chivers tried to get the lead, put Brian Hennings in the wall and into the wall a little bit. Rockford's turned into the outside wall. Brian Hennings and him had contact.
Mike Howerton in the background. Are they going to throw another yellow car heavy into the wall? 15's around.
Jeffrey Hunter spinning. Big hit to the outside wall.
And the race falling apart very early for some of these drivers. The aggression level needs to be dialed back.
Thought we're going to keep that green after Rockford was kind of stuck in the wall, but I think in avoiding, we had drivers in the grass trying to avoid everything. Jeffrey Hunter was the casualty.
So much happening here.
Starts with Renee Hasp kind of coming up the track. We kind of got Brian Hennings into the wall. It's really where it all kicked off. You'll see right here on the bottom of the racetrack, the car in second comes up there, puts the other car in the Hennings into the outside wall.
What is this, 71?
Yeah, and then 71 comes up. It's actually Mike Chivers that came up off of 2 from second position, not Renee Haas.
In the aftermath, though, it's such a broad wreck here. There's so many unrelated things happening.
Yeah, I think they're checking up for the crash, and it just gets them all jumbled up. 47's in the grass, comes up. 23's trying to give the 47 room. Poor Jeffrey Hunter, nothing he can do. And then right there, the 51 with the big hit to the front end. That was Mike Howerton. So 2 big hits for all those drivers.
And why not continue to stay out? Jason Lyon, Renee Hasp going to continue on with the original set of tires. And the 12 will lead another restart here. 15 laps in. Connor, I think this is where I would want to be up front.
Well, if you're a racer, that's good. If you're a racer and don't want to be up front, then you're not really a racer at that point. But yeah, you keep getting yellows like this, it doesn't matter how little the fuel tags are. If you're at the front, top 5, top 10, you're just going to keep staying out. You got the track position that you want for the most part, and as long as you keep avoiding the chaos that's been happening the first quarter of this race, you're not going to pit. I mean, no one can make it from this point. We know that for sure. But, you know, you get more yellows. Maybe you save enough that where a one-stop is not a question. That's just a formality. So all these drivers, you know, they're going to give this. They're going to keep throwing yellows like this and keep having yellows like this. You're going to keep that track position.
Going to take a quick commercial break here. You are watching the VRX Esports in the World Cup Series 2025 live on V-Speed. More coverage will continue from Michigan in just a moment. Side by side under yellow.
KS Racing. We're in the game.
Gentlemen, start your engine!
Back here live from Michigan, and Jared Epker takes over the lead. Jason Lyon, who has stayed out for quite a while with Renee Haas, they've fallen back to 4th and 5th position. Dan Charles, your pole sitter. They've traded places with Epker and Charles running 1st and 2nd, opposite on qualifying.
I saw really only with 5-6 laps of green flag running on those tires, it still made a lot of a difference for Epker and Charles to get back up there and pass those drivers on the older tires. Lyon and Haas, they're still making them work because it's still pretty hard to pass if you're not running the outside line or trying to get out of the dirty air in the bottom line, but those older tires still making it work. And if we can get to a green flag pit stop, mainly with those two, we'll see how long those fuel numbers last and how long those tanks can last, even with the extra caution laps.
Challenging for position here is on board with Christian Key. We've got a live look at his telemetry and what he's got going on. Trying to get around the 43 Wade Palmer. They're going to take it 3 wide.
Renee Haas got pretty tight out of turn number 2. Got aero blocked by Jason Lyon a little bit. They're going to go backwards because of that. So that's going to be from the 5th position all the way back to about the 7th position. So loses almost 2 spots, but Keith could not get up. And we see that difference all that draft makes. He's going to go backwards because he's going like 7 miles an hour slower because he's not in that draft line.
We continue to try to make this pass work, but the inside not working right now. Pass going to get a little bit tight again here off the exit of turn 2. Is that going to be enough for Key? No, it is not. Car with contact in the background.
Couldn't quite see who that was, but we're seeing how important it is to make those passes before you get into the corners, but also how important aero blocking is, because if you think there's a driver faster than you, if you see them go to the bottom of the racetrack, you're going to come down the bottom of the racetrack with them, trying to aero block them and get them further away from you. But also, one thing you're going to be able to do, you can get these guys aero loose with the front of your bumper, get right close to the rear bumper, get them a little aero loose doing that. So you can play aero games kind of 2 ways like you would in a Gen 4 race car. As you can see car way sideways on the bottom of the racetrack. That looked to be Mike Chivers. Almost had a crash right there.
Philip Willis cut him a break there, lifting out of the throttle of turn 2. He was trying to make a move on John Hudson for 7th position. Willis up 10 spots, still on the move, but with that right there, he's going to be set back on the momentum train for just a little bit. Have to wind it back up.
Chivers drivers will figure it out soon. He's going to try to get to the right rear of Christian Key, who's still starting to drop spots even more, just not able to get up to the outside, try to get in that line, try to make that bottom line work. It could be better for the tires, but the draft is what matters right now, as we're seeing a lot of single file running front of the field, really the top 4 breaking away.
So Jared Epker going to come by for another lap led. Dan Charles following right in the wake of this number 11 machine. A little bit loose off the exit of 4, but still able to hold on for another lap.
You can see right there the effects of someone getting pretty close to your bumper. Dan Charles got a lot closer to the rear than the previous corners, and that 11 got a little squirrely on corner exit.
Approaching the halfway mark here at Michigan in race number 1. 3 cautions, 2 lead changes. Jason Lyon leading the vast majority of the laps so far, but Jared Epker going after that record and trying to get most laps led. Down on the low line for the 12. Even with the older tires, still catching up to Wade Palmer.
Yeah, clearly doing a good job keeping the tires on it, able to stay with the front 4 and really makes it a front 5 because it's another 0.8 of a second back to Renee Haas, who's leading that kind of second pack in the 6th position, battling with John Hudson. So you can see that draft is important. The driver's 6th on back. If those top 5 stay single file, they're going to keep getting away. And if it goes green, it's going to change the complexion of the race.
This is what you would worry about when you came down pit road every single time. That's where Jason Lyon had to save. He had to conserve. The advantage maybe showing itself initially, but get back to us in 10 or 15 laps. This 12 car could find his way back to the lead. They've got a massive gap back here to Renee Haas, who's also on older tires. We're talking about almost a 14, 15 lap difference, probably 10 under green.
battle for the lead. Finally, Dan Charles trying to in that inside line, really the middle, trying to make it work, trying to get nice and tight to the left rear of the 11, get that side draft out of the corner, but got really sideways. Gonna let Doug Helfer get to the outside. Got to run on both these drivers, but nowhere to go with it. So just like that, you see what happens if you pull out a line. Don't make that pass. You're gonna go backwards. You're gonna have to fight it hard. I'm shocked to see how strong the outside line is, even with the dirty air. It looks darn right unbeatable if you can just hold a pretty wheel.
I like that. Hold a pretty wheel.
That's what Jared Epper's doing.
Yeah, he's doing it.
Got 3 wide back there. Christian Key can't get off the bottom line. They're 3 wide for about the 11th spot. Teresa Spiker gives way. Christian Key, and I believe that is David Collins, going to stay side by side for that 11th spot.
Teresa Spiker falls back to 13th from that, the 25. Wade Palmer, Dale Charles, very tight, coming off of 4.
That was kind of a frustration set. Charles, seen all these spots go away, tried to dive into the inside slot into 3rd position, but almost wrecked Doug Helfer in the process and kind of let those top 3 get a little bit of a gap. And Jason Lyon, the older tires, back up to that 3rd position.
What tires? That's what he's saying right now. He did what he needed to do. Got used to that clean air, and that's another advantage maybe we didn't touch on, Connor, is being out front as there's contact with 3rd position.
The bumpers line up decently, but you got to hit him square, and right there, it's almost like Dan Charles tried to pull a crossover, get to the inside of Jason Lyon, Wade Palmer, but just misjudged it, got to be outside of Wade Palmer on turn 4 corner exit, and all that battling those drivers did in the top 5, it brought back Renee Hasp, John Hudson, John Kokenberg, so it's really a 9-car pack at the front.
First through 9th with Kokenberg back here in the 98, choosing the high line. Let's watch it on board with the driver in the 98.
Got a good run. You see Hasp and Hudson still kind of struggling, not really staying in the draft, maybe blocking a little bit as well, or maybe that's Renee Hasp trying to call out that they're pitting, because they might not have too much longer to go. As see if Jason Lyon's going to come down to pit lane. I was thinking they got to be close, and lap 30 with a number of caution laps. That's the difference. There's a little contact on entrance, but all these drivers who get the pit coming pretty slowly, and John Hudson's in the inside wall.
Locked it up. The 12 almost got rear-ended. 3-car with some damage. Let's go back on another replay. Take a look. This is what it looks like from the gyro camera. Checking up, holding it sideways,
Woo.
checking up again.
Just locked it up, trying not to hit the 12, and did a pretty darn good job to not hit that driver, Jason Lyon. So props to him, just cost himself a lot of time on the racetrack. And those are some pretty slow pit entrances, which I'd be concerned about once they cycle out. The newer tires for a few more laps compared to these guys staying out might help, but they're actually going to have to pass that pack if they don't pit before they get there.
Watching the 11 of Epker with Doug Helfer in the 64. Just behind with the pole sitter Dan Charles, Wade Palmer, Philip Willis into the top 5. 15 positions gained for the 33 on the move.
And Kokenberg's kind of lost touch with them as these 5 have gotten single file again. They're able to run pretty strong laps right now. The last time they were all roughly running 39 5s. Willis and Palmer actually ran 39 1s and 2s, just catching up to the draft. Kokenberg, I think, sees that. He's going to pit because he saw them that he was losing that draft a little bit. He actually had a pretty good pit entrance, so he might gain time on those drivers who came in the lap before.
And Philip Willis being very patient. He knows that draft is going to pull him up to the car in front of him, but there's no reason to try to dive to the inside and wear your stuff out. Or Palmer not going to go anywhere either. So ride around here, maybe take these next 10 or so laps to pit road and try to make a good entry and pass these guys that way.
Had a slow car. It was Jerry Conley. Not sure what the issue was with him, but slow on the apron. Could be out of fuel. Would not be too surprised of how far these drivers are trying to push the fuel.
Looks like, yes, out of fuel.
All the top 5 stay out. Conley's going to try to lift that car to pit lane.
Hopefully we'll choose the very far left side of pit road here, because you're in turn 4 right now. If anybody else came down pit road, this could be catastrophic for the rest of this field.
We'll have to see. Those top 5 can't be able to go too much longer, and the way the fuel looks, it looks like these drivers are not going to be able to make it without one more stop from here, and we got pit stops. Hepker's going to come in all alone, gets around the slow 22, so no harm, no foul there, as Connolly's out of the way enough and will get the pit lane, but that could have been squirrely.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was worried about. If we had more than one car coming down to pit lane, imagine there with the 3 car of Hudson just a moment ago, he probably would have T-boned that 22.
Yeah, that could have been pretty darn bad. Just trying to look at the fuel windows right now. Last time I saw Doug Helfer pit was lap number 6. So really 2 or 3 caution laps he got to go almost 30 laps on the tank, but it took those caution laps. So without caution laps, who knows how long these drivers can go. Helfer's pretty deep on entry. That's going to be tough to make. I think he's got it though. Helfer, Charles, Wade Palmer, they're all in. David Collins going to come in from the 6th position, while looks like we'll keep Philip Willis in the race lead alone.
That was a pretty fast approach there. Good enough. And nice execution to the stall. I think the 64 is going to make up a lot of time on some of these drivers that pitted earlier with Lyon and Epker.
We'll just have to see where they cycle out. John Kokenberg might be in a good spot to cycle out to the race lead as well, unless he went a lap down in the process, which it looks like he might have, but we got another pit stop. Mike Chivers comes down. Philip Willis going to go another lap.
The 5 car from the top 5. Ryan Hennings in 6th position, still out on the racetrack. 22 laps on this stint. This is right around the limit that we've seen most of these cars come down. And I think right now you're in that window, Connor, where you can make it to the end of this race.
It's going to be darn close. If you might see drivers just take a splash of fuel for their final stop, because you're only going to probably need, well, from what we're seeing, and we're going to guess that they're only going to need, for the most part, 5-10 laps of fuel for most of those drivers. The drivers who hadn't pit, they might need a little bit more. That could end up costing them. So that's something we're going to have to look at as well. Is 33 Willis going to go another lap?
Looking like it. Ed Fiedler on the back bumper. 66 car wants to catch up. Fiedler 3.5 seconds back. This is the 64 machine. That's Doug Helfer, who just came off of an excellent execution on pit road. He's going to get his lap back on the outside.
And right now, he's going to be one of those, he's really going to be a driver who's going to cycle out to the race lead right now. He's battling Kokenberg and Dan Charles for that spot. So as far as the pit stop cycling out, he would, I believe, be in the lead from all those guys, but not quite able to get his lap back that time by, as Philip Willis is still staying out. Just looking at our last yellow was about lap 15. That's when he last came down, so he might be able to go maybe 3 to 5 more laps.
Hunter down pit road, as is Howerton.
Willis giving up the top side.
20 to go. This is going to be crazy.
Yeah, I think Willis is coming in, wanted the bottom, but Dan Charles sees an opportunity to get ahead of these guys, and he took it. Comes Edward Fielder, 66 cars in. Not too many drivers left the pit. Chase Rockford's going to come in the pit. And now pretty confident these drivers pitting now can make it no matter what. So that'll be interesting to see how that cycles out.
Gonna hand the lead over. There's Chase Rockford as well. Here's Blackburn in the 115. Top position. Started back in 27th. 155. I got that wrong the first time. He's gonna come down pit road now. 1 lap led.
He could have been out of fuel. He looked pretty slow down the back. Another driver who pit under last caution, lap 15, able to stretch this fuel out.
So that's going to cycle the lead back to your pole sitter, Dan Charles. But he has Doug Helfer, who had a great execution on and off pit road right on the back end as we come through 3 and 4. Tires about even for the 96 and 64. You also have Kokenberg in the 98. 9 positions gained for this machine. And well within draft range here.
both in draft range. And you could see all these drivers. You could see from how spread out the front of the pack got who did a good job entering pit road and who didn't. Charles, Helfer, Kokenberg, they did a good job. These top three got away from the rest of the field, but Jared Epker, Jason Lyon, granted, Lyon pit a little earlier, so that's partially why he was a little bit behind. Rene Haas, same thing, but really for Epker, who got caught behind lap traffic, he had a tough time entering the pits, and lap traffic is tough tonight.
10 car of Greg Spiker checking up there. A little bit of damage on that 10 car, trying to let these drivers by. Lyon just trying to sort it out. Just trying to get around for 4th position.
Lap traffic's going to be in play at the end of this race. There's no doubt about that. Because these drivers kind of have to work together a little bit. You don't really want to work together. It's kind of co-opetition, but those top three are gone. If you don't get single file, you keep battling for your position. You're not going to catch back up to them. Those top three were in 39 flats, 38 nines last time by, and because of lap traffic mainly, these drivers are almost half a second off.
You see Kokenberg there with a little bit of a blinking issue, but now updated and a 39.150 to 3rd position in that draft. Lyon a 10th off, and that's going to continue to be the trend as long as they choose to race each other.
It almost is like a super speedway in that fashion, as the battle's going to be for 6th, Philip Willis, Rene Haas. Like Willis tried to get to the inside, couldn't quite make it, but it's kind of like a super speedway, or kind of the old style of super speedway racing. You don't want to be leading on the final lap, and for those top three, if they were to get to the white flag 1, 2, 3, they'd probably stay single file until then, but I'd be worried about Dan Charles just being out there and all the draft in the world behind him. Doug Helfer could just get a huge run and pass him on the final lap, as 4th through 7th are going to battle 2 by 2.
Jason Lyon still trying to get around Jared Epker. Philip Willis taking offense to the outside. He might take it 3 wide here coming off of turn 2. They get right up on the bumper to the 11.
Couldn't quite make it work, as Lyon's going to fall back to that 6th position. Rene Haas 7th, Wade Palmer's in 8th. Mike Howerton's a lap down. Edward Fiedler, I said Fielder, it was kind of a dyslexia moment, but Edward Fiedler, 9th position in the 66. David Collins, 707, 10th position.
Top 10 here for the Collinator in the 707. Solid day. Car on the wall, that's the 22, I believe.
Jerry Connolly's had a little bit of a struggle. Saw him barely get the pit lane, but he did get through his stall, coasted all the way there. A number of laps down, 24th position, but I hate where Fiedler is right now. Just note, he does have Mike Howerton, but he's going to blow by him. He's got no draft whatsoever. It's probably the worst position you could be in these ARCA cars. You don't have any draft. You are lapping so much slower, unless you have that big of a tire advantage, which I don't believe he has that big of an advantage, as Jason Lyon, Jared Epker still going to do battle for that 5th spot.
And Willis able to clear both of them. Look at this. Little advantage on tires. Isn't enough time, though, with 15 laps left to catch up to the front 3. 1.8 back.
Remember, we saw him pit around lap 39, so chances are he is good on fuel to the end of this race. Kokenberg pit roughly around lap 33, so that's going to be a big question mark. Doug Helfer, lap 36, he's going to be tight. Dan Charles, same lap. These top 3, I'm not really sure about their fuel, but I like where Willis is right now. I think as far as drivers who might be able to make it, he's definitely the best off right now.
We're going to watch another battle for the lead. Helfer off the corner in turn 4. Was less than a 10th on the back bumper of the 96, and maybe a little fuel save going on here in the top 3, but not for Dan Charles. 11 laps on the stint. 14 roughly to go. I don't know if I like these fuel numbers for the top 3 at all.
And they're not clutching and coasting either, so either they're pretty, either they're confident they can make it, which I don't believe they're going to be, or they don't care that they're not going to make it, they're just planning for that next pit stop, or maybe hoping for yellows. We do have pit stops behind at the back. Jason Lyon and Rene Haas, but they're both going to come in. Tony Jackson, who's laps down, also pitting, so do have some drivers battling, taking those pit stops. Christian Key on pit lane, John Hudson, the 3 cars on pit lane as well.
So Hasp, Lyon in the 12th. Drivers that were competing for the top 5. Yeah, Philip Willis still out there on the racetrack. Again, going back to what you were saying, I like the numbers here for Philip Willis. I think he played the chess game correctly.
And Jared Epker, another one of those drivers who's probably not going to be good on fuel, is 98. Kokenberg's 98's in, so it leaves those top two, Dan Charles and Doug Helfer, out there. So those top two ran 39.6s. Philip Willis, even without draft, he was 0.4 of a second faster, so he has a tire advantage, and he has the advantage on fuel to likely make it.
Coming off this corner here, side by side. That is the 12. Back onto the racetrack. Committed now. That would be the final stop with 11 laps to go. Crossing the stripe.
And immediately Dan Charles gets in that drive. He's like, oh, I could use that. Maybe make it on fuel possibly. Let me just ride behind you. And that 12 car, Lion only took 2 tires to try to stay on the lead lap and just barely got it.
Well, you can hear the RPMs very down on Dan Charles's machine. I don't think he has the tires to hang with this 12 car, though, to stay in that draft. He's going to try to be as calm and easy on the throttle. It's just going to keep losing you time.
Can't be too coy because Philip Willis already caught them. Last lap, he gained a second on those two. Rene Haas was going to try to get their lap back as well, but the 33 is there.
He says, I don't need any draft. I've got plenty of fuel. Only 11 laps on the stint. 10 to go. 33 to the inside. He's going to take the lead.
Going to get second away. Not quite going to get the race lead. That bottom line, just not as much grip. Going to try to side draft tight to the left rear quarter panel. Not going to be able to do it. It's going to let that 64 of Helfer get back to the outside. But you can just see into the corner how much more grip he has. Hasp as well has even more grip than all of them. So it's 3 wide. Almost 4 wide with the leader way high on the racetrack, as Willis might get some draft from Rene Hasp to help facilitate this pass for the lead, but not quite clear.
He'll stay down on the bottom. Is it enough? I think with the advantage on tires, he will clear going into turn 1. New leader in the closing laps.
Not quite. 96 going to hang on the right rear just ever so slightly.
Burning more fuel, trying to fight this.
And might as well at this point if you don't think you can make it. I thought the 33 was going to get it. Here comes Kokenberg trying to get his lap back as well. Both those drivers, Kokenberg and Hasp, disrupting the lead fight. 64 is way up the track. 98 is going to get all those drivers easily. And the 33 got a good run off of turn number 4, but doesn't have much draft.
And it's Willis stuck in a box here with Helfer and Charles. And lap traffic flying by the 11 car down.
That's another driver couldn't make it, and we're going to probably catch more lap traffic. Jeffrey Hunter, Frank Chavez, they're going to come into this fight for sure. Willis, I thought he was going to clear him, but not quite. 64, Helper going to give the 33 a big push into turn number 3, which could make the difference. We might go 3 wide for the race lead.
64 down low, and the contrast from how this race started to where it is now, the action continues. It's all about strategy. Philip Willis officially now to the front.
I think as long as he can make it on fuel, unlike, I believe, the 2 behind him, he should be able to drive away from those 2. And I don't think Helfer, who got second from Charles, will have anything for him. But the issue is the lap traffic, because they are going to catch Hunter and Chavez, who are battling for that 13th spot. Kokenberg's trying to get them as well, I believe. Let's look at that move, 3 wide to the bottom, trying to get by both of them.
A lot of momentum out of turn 2. He will get the 2-for-1 special.
Yeah, all those are actual positions from Lion back to Frank Chavez. All those drivers in a line, some couldn't make it, some off the pace. As it's all driver, these 3 will have to deal with that. It's just these 3 basically is a long ways back to Edward Fiedler.
Well, based off of the push here, I think Helfer might have enough fuel. He might be in the green. Dan Charles falling back into the draft, navigating through this traffic, getting around 33, trying to escape this.
Yeah, he pit about 3 laps before Philip Willis, so if he can make it, it's going to be by the finest of margins.
I heard some clutch pedal, not sure who it was, into the entry of turn 3.
Might have been help for a little bit, but it wasn't much.
Let's go on board with him. I don't know, with all the laps led, it wouldn't surprise me if it's Dan Charles. Watch going here into turn 3 again.
I was thinking if you weren't saving 10 laps ago, you're not going to make it. So, lost cause is trying to get by Jeffrey Hunter. Now losing touch with those top two. As Hofer's able to stay with Willis, just don't know if he can make that pass back.
We might see a challenge for the lead. But based off numbers, it looks like Philip Willis, if it stays green to the end, will be your race winner. He has plenty of fuel. I think he's in a great spot with only 17 laps on the stint. You can take a look here on the left-hand side of your screen. The last time these cars came down pit road, what an advantage for Willis. And if the two cars behind him end up running out of fuel, we might see Ed Fiedler come up into a podium finish in the 66.
And all those drivers you last pit lap for are the drivers who pit on the latest yellow. I was just so surprised more people didn't do that, especially if they weren't in the top 10. I would have thought everyone's going to be taking fuel and probably another set of tires, but only a few drivers were able to make that decision. It's definitely paying off.
3 laps to go. Watching a battle back here for the 12th position between Rene Haas. There's John Kokenberg and Jeffrey Hunter. 14th position, about 4.5 seconds back.
And
the 12 of Jason Lai.
And Kokenberg's got the tire advantage. These are all drivers, if they played the strategy right, they would have been up there battling for the win, but just didn't get the breaks they needed. And now instead of battle for a top 3 or a top 5, it's a battle for the 11th position.
Kokenberg thought it was clear there to the outside. He is now through the tri-oval. Willis starting to pull away. They're catching up to these cars.
2 to go. I don't think they're going to catch that battle for 11th, but Helfer and Willis going to stay bumper to bumper till the end, but Helfer lost some ground trying to get by the 10 of Spiker.
2 Mile Speedway. About 1 mile left to take that white flag. Philip Willis good to go on fuel. Here he comes off of turn 4 to start off the 2025 VRX World Cup season. Philip Willis with the white flag presented by Moza Racing.
Only hope for Helfer now. He can get a good run in clean air to the inside and maybe have a shot in a 3, but tried the bottom line. It's a little flatter down there and lost some ground trying to make that happen.
Believe he's going to be just fine. Helfer in the background. Dan Charles losing a ton of ground. He's going to have to clutch it all the way back around this place, but it's full throttle to the front. Top of the points. 19 positions gained, and Philip Willis is going to claim race 1 in the 2025 VRX World Cup.
Strategy was the name of the game tonight. Philip Willis played it perfectly. 20th position starting from 20th to lead 13 laps, especially with all the chaos we saw in the first quarter of this race, to get through there with a clean race car and able to get the victory. Pretty strong showing to start the season.
Congratulations to the 33. I've been on the racetrack with him before. It was at Homestead, and kind of walked the dog with me. Definitely a talented racer, and proved it here tonight. Gonna burn it down here on the front stretch. Doug Helfer, Dan Charles, the top 3. Post-race interviews with those 3 drivers. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Post-race coverage coming up here on V-Speed for the VRX World Cup 2025. We're going to get a word from the sponsors here on V-Speed.
JS Racing. We're in the game.
Gentlemen, start your engine!
Welcome back to our post-race coverage. Race number 1 of the VRX World Cup 2025 has concluded. 60 laps here tonight. There's a little caution plague to start this thing off with 3 cautions, 9 lead changes to finish this thing out. And change the strategy several times here today. And of all those leaders, the driver that worked the strategy the best, Philip Willis. Raw pace, he ends up being your winner. Great start here from the Irish Hills for the 33. Doug Helfer and Dan Charles, your pole sitter, starting up top. He's going to end up in 3rd position. We'll get a word with those drivers in just a moment's time. But it's back here to Ed Fiedler with a great finish in the 66. Top 5, Wade Palmer, with the way his day started, he's happy for a 5th position. Mike Shivers will finish in 6th spot with Brian Hennings in the 74. And 7th, Chase Rockford in 8th position. David Collins going to finish in 9th. He also had a rough start to the day, sideways down the backstretch. And it's a 155 of Kenneth Blackburn, the most positions gained, 17 spots to finish in 10.
You see how spread out the field was. He was 26 seconds back in 10th position. That's spread out this field got with all the different strategies. Jason Lyon on a different strategy. Him and John Kokenberg, 11th and 12th, they could have battled for the win if they got the strategy right. They just couldn't. Renee Hasp, same deal, 13th. Jeffrey Hunter, 14th. Frank Chavez, 15th. They battled to the line for that spot. Jared Epker, another one just off strategy, paid the price for it, 16th for him. John Hudson, involved in a crash earlier, 17th. Teresa Spiker, 18th position, 19th for Christian Key, who we saw in the top 10 in the middle part of the race, and Anthony Edrington, 20th position for the 77th. A lot of those drivers ending up a lap down.
One or more laps down with Mike Howerton in the 21st position. Then it's 2 laps down for Ben Jamin, one of his favorite racetracks. Unfortunate 21st spot. We never did get a chance to show his on board. You have Jerry Conley finishing 23rd spot. Greg Spiker also some laps down, 5 laps down there for the number 10. You go back to 25th position with Tony Jackson. And that was a very early problem there for the 47. Issues all over the racetrack. And then, of course, you have your race control here tonight with Connor Gordon and Tony Richards. Going to be rounding out that field on the list, but not participating in this one. But now it's time to talk to your winner in victory lane. First driver we're going to talk to. First driver to start this season off in the 2025 VRX World Cup. Philip Willis, I will say I'm not surprised. I've raced with you before. I know you're a talented guy. You kind of walked the dog there at Homestead on me, and I know the strategy came into play in this one as well. And I don't know what your opinion was, but every time you had a chance to take fuel, you had unlimited tire sets. I don't know why more of these guys didn't do that. It paid off for you.
Yeah, I got caught up in something that I hear we were 4 wide on the exit of, I guess it was 4, didn't know it, and kind of got tapped from behind. I got to go back and take a look and see what happened. If it was something I'd done, I apologize to the crew. I mean, it was good, hard racing tonight. I like to see races finish like that when you're battling for position the whole time and you're not trying to save fuel. I mean, that just worked out tonight. That was awesome.
So did you know of the situation with Dan Charles and Doug Helfer? You kind of went up there and pushed them, and it seemed like you put them in a situation where they couldn't save and they had to back off. You had a fight there for a moment, but then suddenly they just kind of fell out. And was that on your mind going up to the lead?
Actually, it wasn't. It was a surprise. I was sitting there thinking I'm going to be stuck here in 3rd place and not going to have enough to get around them two. It shocked me when I saw them go down pit road. I'm like, whoa, where did that come from? Wasn't expecting that. These guys race hard, man. I thought it was going to be a battle. I was going to have to fight for everything I could, but these guys raced clean. It was a lot of fun. This one slipped up, obviously, waiting to the last moment you possibly could to come in and get fuel and tires, man. I think that was really the move because you're right. It pushed them to where they couldn't save, and they had to race me. So that's what we done, and we come out on top tonight. That was pretty cool.
Great start to the season. It makes Daytona a little bit easier to deal with. We know that racetrack is kind of a wild card, and anything can happen. Anyone can win, and you could be in a situation where it kind of undoes anything you did here tonight. So how does that feel? How does that build your confidence going into week 2?
Well, look, the people here at VRX, the people I race with, they all know I run as hard as I possibly can every race. It doesn't matter where it is, and who I'm racing. I try to race as clean as I possibly can. Hopefully I've proven that over time racing with these people, and I'm going to try to keep digging every week. Daytona, it's like a crackerjack prize, man. You just don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if you're going to get a good prize or a bad prize, but you always get a finish. So hopefully we can have a good finish next week and have a good season, and that's all I can ask for.
Well, when you play certain games, you win certain prizes, and you're on the top prize here this week. Michigan's going to go to Philip Willis, 13 laps led, Started 20th, 19 positions gained. I actually need to retract what I said about Blackburn. He had 17 positions gained. So you're the biggest mover of the race. You won it. Congratulations. Anybody want to shout out before we let you go?
Absolutely. First of all, I'd like to thank V-Speed for putting the show on. I'm curious to go back and take a look at this replay. I know y'all do a very good job at this. And obviously, I want to thank VRX Simulators, and they've asked me to join this up. We've enjoyed racing with them, and I appreciate the invite. This being my first time for the World Cup, it's really cool to be a part of something that's big. But obviously, I want to thank all these sponsors: Pimax, Moser Racing, Butt Kicker, VRX Simulators. And if I'm forgetting anybody, I apologize. But I appreciate everybody that's pitching in to put on the show. This is pretty cool.
Congratulations again. We'll see you next week at Daytona, 7 days time, next Thursday.
All right. We'll see you next week. Appreciate it. And have a good night.
Philip Willis, victorious here at Michigan. Great start to the season. Hopefully that momentum will carry on all the way out to the end. It's 12 races here, Connor, that we were talking about, and we're going to move on, though. And Connor, what's your take, though, before we move on to our second place finisher? This race started out what seemed like it was going to be caution plagued, and these guys very aggressive, and then it single filed out right after that third caution.
Yeah, after that third caution, you kind of got the field a little more jumbled up. And once we got past those first 2-3 laps where things are really packed up and the draft was really having an effect on the racing, we got that single file race, and that's when it got strung out. That's when the strategy really changed, and that's when the racing changed. We saw it get more spread out. We saw catching cars and passing them was really hard to do, and I think that kind of contributed to how much green flag running we got. We got roughly 40-45 laps of green flag racing all the way to the final lap 60. And also the strategy, it changed a lot because we had drivers who weren't pitting and didn't end up taking fuel in the final yellow, which ultimately ended up being the difference for Philip Willis and all these drivers, for the most part, who finished in the top 5. Those drivers were able to pit on the last yellow or second to last yellow, and that made the difference, just cutting out that one extra stop.
Yeah, and you look at the start of this race where 60 laps, 22 to 25 laps on fuel, you would have split this race into thirds, but the final 2/3 of this race going green, everybody that didn't pit during that last caution regretting it, and it put him in a weird situation. Philip Willis again on top because of that situation, and not just because of that, but raw pace. He went up there, he did what he needed to do and drove his heart out. And Doug Helfer is going to be our second place interview. We're going to pull him into the broadcast booth. I believe it's this is the correct guy, and nicknames here, Shiny Heine, I believe is the nickname, but it's Doug Helfer. You got a copy?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, I know that you were in a situation, same with Dan Charles, of we maybe should have pitted there on that last caution. It put us behind. You couldn't push as hard as you wanted to. The tire disadvantage, it was only 4 laps, but man, it probably felt like 10 to 100 once you guys couldn't push there at the end.
It did. When I hit about 5 laps to go, I really could feel my front tires dropping off, and I could see Philip pulling away. But you know what? I was happy with that. I'm happy with the second place finish, and that was a fun race.
It was an excellent race, and with the start of the event, we kind of got everybody jumbled up. It looked like everyone was very aggressive. Were you a part of that? Not any situation where you thought maybe we need to dial it back here at the start?
There was at least once where the seas parted for me, and I dodged a wreck. I wasn't at fault or anything, but I was in the middle of it and got lucky.
Well, luck and strategy, whatever you want to chalk it up to, you're on the podium this week. 1 lap led, started in 8th, solid day. Moving on to Daytona.
Yes,
you did?
Nice.
There you go.
All right,
yeah,
perfect.
Stats don't lie here on V-Speed. And one final question I have for you. Going to Daytona, we know it's kind of, well, we compared it to Cracker Jack prize, and I call it the wild card. What's your take on next week?
Daytona is definitely a wild card. That can turn out to be anybody's game, but I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun.
One of the few Pontiacs that we have here on iRacing, finishing second. Anybody you want to shout out real quick while we have you up here?
Oh yeah, shout out to VRX and you guys doing the broadcast here. That's pretty cool. And you mentioned my paint job there, the only Pontiac. That's a Brian Henning special right there. He did a good job on that.
Love the Trans Am, and I know that this car stayed clean. Hopefully we see it in one piece next week, and we get to see that Golden Phoenix on the hood again in the podium post race.
Yes, sir. I hope so. I'll give it my best shot.
Doug Helfer, second place here at Michigan. And that brings us to our final post-race interview with Dan Charles in the 96. You started on the pole, the strategy flips and flops, and it's just hard to predict when the next one's going to happen. If you had one more caution, it probably would have worked out for you. You were one of the fastest cars on this racetrack tonight. But Dan, still a podium. You salvaged the day. A lot of fuel save at the end of this thing.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying. I was gonna come up about 3/10 shy to make the end, and I got lucky and got tucked in behind somebody and just made it across the line. I was out of fuel when we came back around to park them.
Starting out this race on the top spot, a lot of aggression, 3 wide, and a lot of moves to the inside, but the outside line seemed to work really well. Even in dirty air, it looked like that 96 car was able to turn off the corner and get a really good run. Do you think that had this race went green from the start, you would have become victorious tonight?
I'm thinking we probably would have stuck to the high line. If we went green the whole time, we'd have stuck to the high line. I think it would have been good. I think maybe I could have held on.
One final question for you. You're going to Daytona next week. What's it like for plate tracks here for the 96?
It's dangerous. It's dangerous all around. Everybody loves Daytona. Anybody can come out a winner. Let's hope it goes well.
Survival of the fittest, or maybe the quickest. I don't know. But Dan Charles, congratulations on third place. Great start here to the 2025 VRX World Cup. Anybody you got to shout out to put this car on the podium?
Yeah, I want to say thanks to VRX for the invite. And Nitro for putting a lot of this together. Teresa and Greg, everybody at VRX, they went out, they hit the pavement, they got us some prizes. A great group of people. I can't say enough about them. I'm just happy to be here.
Appreciate your time, and hopefully we'll see you next week, 7 days when we go down south.
Okay, I'll see you then. Thanks, Bradley.
Dan Charles, third place finisher here at Michigan. Another great broadcast here on V-Speed. Enjoyed every minute of it. And you know what? It kind of throws me off. It's a Thursday, Connor, and you're up here in the broadcast booth. I'm still getting used to it.
As far as I know, I'll be here Saturday too. So 2 out of 7's not too bad, I suppose. But pretty fun race. We had to get the gremlins out of the way the first 15 laps with the cautions, with some of the crashes. But most of those drivers got to use that one faster pair, so that was good for those drivers that they at least got to use it and get back in the game. But once we got the green flag running past 5 laps of racing, we were gone. And strategy, if someone had fuel, the tires made a big difference getting drivers through the field. And ultimately, it was the 33 that made the right decision to get the fuel and the tires to get up through the field to be close enough to take advantage of that one less stop. So Philip Willis did a darn good job today playing the strategy right. And in such a short 12 race season, strategy is going to be just as important as it is raw speed, but it's all going to be about who's at the front on the final lap when we get to Daytona next week. Completely different animal.
October 30th, and you can see it there with the schedule for the next 5 races all the way to Pocono, November 20th. And just before my birthday, we're going to Iowa, short track racing. So you look there with Iowa and Bristol, those are going to be some asterisks throughout the season. If you think Daytona's a wild card, you should look up when we go to Bristol, Tennessee on December 18th. But again, you can catch it here at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time on V-Speed. We'll have flag-to-flag coverage all season long. My co-commentator, Connor Horn. Another fantastic broadcast with the cameras provided by Dougie Beer. For Eddie Smith, Adam Baker, and Morgan Cook. We'll see you next time at Daytona. VRX World Cup 2025. Philip Willis victorious. Next time. Stay tracking, everybody.